Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How's everyone
وعليكم
doing?
وعليكم السلام.
MashaAllah. Bakar, to hear from you. Brother Kabir, good to hear from you. Yasin, MashaAllah. Appreciate you all joining in Ramadan. Most of you all probably still fasting, I'm guessing. So may Allah reward you for your struggle, because I know it's a struggle.
I mean,
I mean. Okay, we'll go ahead and start, inshallah. So as not to, so as to keep the class relatively short in Ramadan, I'm trying to keep it short. All right. And Sister Jessica will also be leaving. So, okay, we'll go ahead and start. Just saw that. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك عليه وعلى آله صلاة تخرجنا بها من ظلمات الوهم وتكرمنا بها بنور الفهم وتوضع بها عما أشكل حتى يفهم أنك تعلم ولا نعلم وأنت علام الغيوب ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم ومن يعتصم بالله فقد هدي إلى صراط مستقيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. قال المصنف رحمه الله ونفعنا الله وإياكم ببركاته في الدارين. وكالصلاة الغسل دفن وكفن وتر كسوف عيد استسقاء سنن. So we're on this section of the types of prayer according to the ahkam, according to the ruling that it has. Okay, and we said at a high level there are two rulings that a prayer has: either it's fard or it's sunnah. Either it's fard or it's sunnah. It's either obligatory or it's sunnah. Now, excuse me for the sniffles. I have a little allergies from the excessive amount of pollution in Cairo. But in any case, we have fard and sunnah. Okay? Fard, as we said, obligatory has two types, which is communal obligation and individual obligation and communal obligation. Individual obligation is obvious, it's the 5 daily prayers. Communal obligation, we said, is mainly the janaza or the jinaza. It's both are correct according to Arabic. And there's no difference between them, unlike what some authors say. So janaza or jinaza. Okay. Now the sunnah, there are many types to them. Before we get to the types of sunnah, can anyone tell me what the definition of obligatory is? Can anyone tell me what the definition of obligatory is?
If you don't do it, you get sin for it, and if you do it, you get reward.
Excellent. That was Umar Haq, mashallah. Great job. I think, if I'm not mistaken, last time you weren't able to answer this, right?
That's correct.
Mashallah. See, there you go. You just keep struggling, you just keep trying. And a mistake that leads you to correctness is better than no mistake at all. So in any case, that's the definition of obligatory. Excellent. And that's the definition I gave. There's another definition. And I think that's better to give for the sake of Ibn Ashir, and explain why. The other definition of fard is ما طلب الشارع طلبا جازما. ما طلب الشارع فعله طلبا جازما. What the shari', the legislator, that is Allah, or Allah through the Prophet ﷺ, what the legislator requested us to do, its action, طلبا جازما, necessarily, meaning that we must do it. By the way, can I make someone the co-host? How about Brother Kabir? Can I make you the co-host so that you can let people in?
Yep, sounds good.
All right. So I go ahead. Okay. ما طلب الشارع طلبا فعله طلبا جازما, right? That's what we said. What the legislator asks you to do strictly. What the legislator necessitates you to do strictly, okay? Or asks you to do strictly, let's say that. And the reason I think this definition is better, right? Once again, the definition is what the legislator asks you to do strictly. The reason I think this definition is better, even though there's not a huge difference, okay? There's not a huge difference between this definition, and the other definition that we gave. It's just looking at it from different angles. Even though the words are all different, it's looking at it from different angles, okay? And we'll look at that as we progress in our studies and in usul. But for now, we don't need to delve into what are those angles. But the reason that this definition is better is because this is the definition that Ibn Ashir gives. This is the definition that Ibn Ashir himself gives. Does anyone know in which line? He gives this definition way in the beginning. We actually didn't cover this section in this class. We did cover it for those of us who were here before the Tayba class started. But way before, in line number 50 to 51 to 52. Okay? Exactly, Kabir. Excellent. MashaAllah. How did you know? You weren't in the class before.
Yeah,
Because you're studying Ibn Ashir before. MashaAllah. You what? You memorized it?
No, I'm just looking at it. No, and it just happens to
Okay.
have.
MashaAllah. Excellent. Okay, so he says in line 50, أقسام حكم الشرع خمسة ترام فرض وندب وكراهة حرام. He lists the 5 categories of rulings. Then in line 51, he says ثم إباحة فمأمور جزم. He says, and then there's permissible as well as a ruling. An absolute command is obligatory. فمأمور جزم. فرض, and that is the fard. ودون الجزم مندوب وسن. And what is less than strictly necessary is recommended, okay? So we don't need to go into those lines right now, but I just want to show you that the author himself is giving the definition way before in a different section. This is why all the sections are connected. When you look at this text, you shouldn't see each section as disconnected, that, you just study a few lines here, a few lines there, and you can say you've studied Ibn Ashir. No, if you didn't study this section, like we did in this class, then your knowledge is not entirely complete. And so maybe at the end of the class, inshallah, or at least the fard, after we finish the fiqh, maybe we can go back to the usul a little bit. So that's the definition that Imam Ibn Ashir gives. And because this is his text, it's better to operate within his framework and use his definition, okay? Rather than the other definition. Did everyone get that? That basically the obligatory, according to this other second definition, is what the legislator requires you to do strictly. فرض ودون الجزم مندوب وسن. So as for the recommended or the sunnah, it is what the legislator requires you to do, but not strictly. I can sense perhaps the confusion in the room, even though no one has their camera on. Yeah, someone confused? No one's confused. All right. We'll jump straight into the pop quiz then. I'm just kidding. I'm going to show you a little. I'm going to show you a little slides. Okay, a few slides. I may have already had this before. Did I have this before? Does anyone remember? SubhanAllah, all my slides are deleted. I don't know what happened. Okay, for now, we'll just open up PowerPoint. New slide. Okay. And what the hierarchy. Insert. Smart art. Hierarchy. Here we go. Okay, let me share my screen. Everyone can see this, yes? Okay. So we said we had, let me write in English, right? Ruling of the prayer. Okay, this is not actions in the prayer, just to be careful. This is rulings of the types of prayer. So we have obligatory, and we have, we will call it, why don't we call it, actually we'll call it non-obligatory, okay? For now, we'll call it recommended. Now, what's important to know, and this is where you move from beginner student to a not beginner student, okay? A beginner student who just listens into durus, and a student whose mind begins to be formed in any way, okay? So this recommended is not, there's actually two definitions for recommended, right? And two different kinds of recommended. This obligatory, we said, what is the definition? And here we had individual and communal. Can anyone repeat the definition real quickly that I just gave?
What the legislator or through the Prophet, peace be upon him, asks you to do strictly.
Excellent. Yeah, strictly, yes. Excellent. Who was that?
Abu Bakr.
Abu Bakr. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Excellent. Okay, so we have recommended, sunnah mu'akkada. Okay. As for recommended, can anyone guess the definition? Or I think we already said the definition, but can anyone say the definition of recommended here?
The legislator has asked the individual to do an act, but not strictly.
Excellent, Yasin. MashaAllah. Or as they would say, Nalla panna. MashaAllah. Okay, so we have emphasized sunnah. And then now under this recommended, as we're going to see in the types of prayer, there's emphasized sunnah. There is raghiba. There is the rawatib. Okay, these are the, how do you say, the regularly occurring, or we can say the nawafil in general. Recommended nawafil. Regular, any nawafil. Okay. Now you see why I said I was focusing on the definition, because this recommended here, as Yasin defined, it is what the legislator requires, but not strictly. This recommended simply means is actually a more specific recommended. Okay. Under this recommended, we have all of these kinds of prayers. We're going to get to them, and one by one, we'll get to them, and it'll make more and more sense. Okay. So let's start with the prayers, inshallah. But just know right now that this recommended is different from the recommended that you see here. Okay, it's different. Okay. All right. So he says, witrun, witr. So he begins Ibn Ashir, radiallahu anh, with the four emphasized sunnahs. There's four emphasized sunnahs. How many? Four, and only four. Not five, not three, but four. Okay? Now, what are these four sunnahs? He gives an order. because there's actually an order of how emphasized they are. There's actually an order of how emphasized they are. The witr prayer is the most emphasized. The witr is the most emphasized. You wouldn't think it from the amount of time people spend on the next prayer, which is the Eid prayer, right? How important people feel Eid prayer is, that they must go to the masjid, which is good, of course, that they must go to the masjid, that they must dress up, wear their perfume, wear their suits or their blazers or their fancy dresses or thobes or shalwar kameez or kailis or whatever. We spend so much time emphasizing Eid prayer, but did you know witr is more emphasized than Eid prayer? To show us that that amount of effort that we put into Eid prayer twice a year, we should treat the witr more significantly every single night. Okay? To miss one day of witr prayer is greater than missing that Eid prayer that we dress up for and put perfume or cologne or oud or bakhur or whatever for. Yeah? Okay. Alhamdulillah. All right. So where were we? Witrun kusufun aidun istisqa sunan. Okay, witr prayer. Go ahead.
Excuse us, sir.
Go ahead.
Are you using any word strict as in firm, or is it as in severe?
The word in Arabic is jazm. So if you want to memorize that,
Jazm.
I would just memorize that. Jazm, right? Resoluteness, strictness, firmly. It indicates that Allah requires that you do it, necessitates that you do it, right? Versus requests you to do it, but not strictly. It's not a necessity, okay? So all of these are not necessities. I'm sharing my screen, right? Yeah, all of these under recommended is not a necessity, okay? All of these. I don't know why it's not. Okay. Yeah, it's not a necessity. So we said witr. The witr prayer in the madhab, because every madhab tends to have a different witr prayer, right? And I think that confusion or a conflict, or however you want to call it, becomes very prominent during Ramadan when you go to one mosque and they're doing 2 + 1 and they're doing qunut, and the other mosque says, why make the qunut so long? The other mosque is doing it 3 altogether, and so people are very confused. Okay, first thing is, there's no problem, just because Ramadan, I'll mention this, there's no problem praying Taraweeh behind any imam who does it according to the madhab. There's no problem praying according to the imam doing it according to any madhab. Even the Hanafis who join it together all as one. The witr is, I believe they say it's 3, or at least they pray 3 all together. Okay, so in this case, there's no problem in praying behind these imams, so don't make a big deal out of this. Okay, and you can see again my Telegram channel. I shared a video of our Sheikh Al-Maghili detailing that, translated to English, by the way. Okay, number 2, that's the witr. So how is the witr prayed according to the madhab? If you're leading the prayer, or if you're praying on yourself, how is it done? It's simply one rak'ah. That's it. There's no qunut. Okay, there's no extra takbir. It is better to recite out loud, as we'll see. A principle in the nawafil recommended prayers is that it's in the day it's better to stay silent, in the night it's better to recite out loud. Okay, but that's the witr prayer, 1 rak'ah. Now, it is recommended to put 2 rak'ahs before that, to pray 2 rak'ahs before that. Okay, you get extra reward for praying 2 rak'ahs before that, and it's disliked to lead those 2 rak'ahs. You might ask, what 2 rak'ahs? Well, if you were outside of Ramadan, it could be just 2 sunnahs that you pray. after Isha, and then you add 1 rak'ah. If it's during Ramadan, those 2 rak'ahs could be part of the Taraweeh, or it could be separate from the Taraweeh. Okay? There's no problem. As long as you pray any 2 supererogatory prayers, supererogatory, and actually that might be a better word here. The only thing is, I don't think anyone uses the word supererogatory except Muslims. Muslims know the word supererogatory from the time they're 5 years old, probably. But supererogatory prayer, any supererogatory prayer before the witr is okay to, counts and fulfills the recommendation to put 2 supererogatory rak'ahs before the witr prayer. Okay? As for the time, it is any time after Isha, as long as the Isha is prayed during its normal time, as long as the Isha prayer is prayed during its normal time. When is the Isha prayer not prayed during its normal time? Anyone?
Probably.
Great job. Yes. Kabir, yes. I believe was that Abu Bakr or Umar? Abu Bakr. Okay, excellent. So yes, when you're traveling, you may bring forward Isha into the Maghrib time. In this case, you must wait to pray witr until after the Isha time has actually entered. Okay? So that's the witr prayer. Now, the witr actually does have an ikhtiyari and a daruri time. That is a time, and we talked about that, right? When it comes to the fard salah. So similarly, witr has 2 times. So you can pray it all the way until the light of Fajr comes in, until the Fajr adhan comes in. But even after that, if you miss the witr, you can pray it during its daruri time, which is after the Fajr adhan until you pray subh. After the Fajr adhan until you pray subh, this time is the daruri time of witr. So let's say, for example, you had a long night at work, came home, pray Isha, forgot to pray witr, you just collapsed in your bed and slept. Khalas. Then you woke up 5:30 a.m. 5:30 a.m., which in most places is plenty of time to pray subh, right? Unless you're in the northern hemisphere, very north. It's plenty of time to pray subh. So what do? You can pray witr first. You can actually pray the shafa' first, which is the 2 rak'ahs, supererogatory prayer, before witr. Then you can pray witr. Then you can pray fajr, which we're going to talk about, the 2 sunnahs of the subh prayer. And then you pray fajr, subh, the fard subh, okay? So again, the witr is 1 rak'ah, and it has the ikhtiyari and daruri time. The ikhtiyari time is after Isha, after praying Isha, during the Isha time, all the way until the Fajr Adhan, and the daruri time is from the Fajr Adhan all the way until you pray the subh prayer, that is the fard prayer in the morning. Okay? Any questions on witr?
Yes. Can I just ask? So you do 2 units, do salam, and then you stand up and you say the takbir again, and then do one rakat and do salam again?
Exactly. That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing special, no du'as. In fact, it would be makruh, disliked, to do specific du'a, before the after the recitation, or yeah, maybe not disliked after the recitation, but after the getting up from the ruku'. Okay? Go ahead, Sister Akram.
Tariq, I was wondering for the Daruri time, you mentioned after Fajr and then until you pray Subah. Does that Subah fall within its own ikhtiyari and Daruri time, or does it not matter?
Good question. If you're going on the qawl, which I don't take, but if you're going on the qawl, right, that the subh has a daruri and ikhtiyari, right? Because there's two opinions on that, and both of them are mashhur in the madhab. Both of them are recognized in the madhab. I'll get back to you on that. That's a good question.
Yeah. Jazakallah khair.
Brother Sana'ullah.
Assalamualaikum, brother. Just a quick question.
Alaikum salam.
We have like a minute left before the Fajr Adhan. Is it better to pray one witr, or you just pray the two shafa and then witr, even though the time of Fajr comes in?
That's a good question as well. MashaAllah. You guys are asking hard-hitting questions. Qiyas would indicate that it would be better to pray the witr before the time, ikhtiyari time ends. Just like it's better to pray a fard without the sunnahs before the ikhtiyari time ends. Does that make sense?
Okay, so
But again, yeah, I'll double check. But do you see the reasoning I'm using?
yes, I understand that. Barakallahu fiqh.
Yeah, fiikum barakallah. But it's another good question, so let me check on. So Kam's question was, yeah, what if on the qawl of daruri and ikhtiyari? Okay. And I would say Ikram, yeah, I would. My hunch is that it does last even until the daruri of subh. But we'll see. Let me actually double check that. So if you have time for one rak'ah before Fajr Adhan. Okay. Abu Bakr, go ahead. MashaAllah, a lot of questions on with it.
I actually had the same question as the brother, but also if like if you're trying to make it to the congregation, does praying the witr take precedence over praying in congregation, or so like if you wake up late and you have enough time to make it to the congregation or pray witr, do you stay?
Also a good question. I'll look into that. Okay. My hunch is also no, because for the Fajr, it's very clear. We're going to pray Fajr and miss the congregation, or miss even one rak'ah of the Subh prayer, then you should not pray the Fajr. So my guess is also the same for Witr, but I will also double check on that, because Witr is more emphasized than the Fajr prayer. Okay. Many good questions today. MashaAllah. You guys are beginning to think like faqihs. MashaAllah. Okay, so if you have enough time, or if you have choice between congregation and which to choose. Okay. Now, how much time do we have? Okay, let's see if we can at least get to the mu'akkadat, okay? So we'll save the rest of the questions till the end. So that's the witr. The second most important, emphasize, as we said, each of these are ranked in terms of importance. The witr is the most important. After that, we have the Eid prayer, everyone's favorite prayer, right? And the one that's coming up. So the Eid prayer, it's sunnah mu'akkada for men. It's sunnah mu'akkada for men. That's for a healthy resident man. Basically, anyone that Jum'ah is obligatory for, it's sunnah mu'akkada for that man to go to the masjid, or go to the jama'ah, the congregation. For everyone else, it is recommended. For everyone else, it is recommended. So for women, it's recommended. For traveler, it's recommended. And yes, you can be traveling during Eid. For a sick person, it's recommended. You might say, well, should that sick person go to the masjid and spread their disease and blah, blah, blah. Well, no, you can actually pray Eid prayer at home. You can pray the Eid prayer at home. Okay? And it's recommended to pray it at home. Now, how do you pray the Eid prayer? There are 2 rak'ahs in the Eid prayer. Okay? And you pray in the first rak'ah with 7 takbirat. 7 takbirat, including the takbirat al-ihram. So you say Allahu Akbar, and you only raise your hands for the first one. Okay? You only raise your hands for the takbirat al-ihram. As for the rest of the takbir, you only raise your hands, takbirat al-ihram. As for the rest, you just say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And there's no harm in keeping count on your fingers. Okay? Alhamdulillah, especially if you're doing sadl, very easy to keep count on your fingers because it's not holding something else. So you can just, just keep track on your fingers. You can go like this and keep track of the takbirat because it is easy to lose track. If the imam is of a madhab, a different madhab. I know the Shafi'is have a different way of doing it. Hanafis have a different way of doing it. No matter the way that the other madhab is doing it, no matter the way in which the other madhab is doing their takbirat, it doesn't matter. You do the takbirat according to the Maliki madhab. Okay? Of course, you're not doing it out loud so everyone can hear, Allahu Akbar. Somebody Imam missed the takbir, and you're like, Allahu Akbar. You just want to rub it in his face. No. You do the takbir silently to yourself, okay? So you do 7 takbirat in total. If you're not leading and the imam doesn't do the takbirat, you do it silently. Okay. Unless the imam is Maliki as well, then you should correct the imam. I believe you should correct the imam. Okay? وكبر المأموم إن نقص صدع. Let's see what's إذا ظهر له نقص في تكبيرة الإمام سبح له. Yes. As I was thinking, it says in the Sharh of Ashal al-Masalik by Sheikh al-Ju'li from Sudan, he says that if it's a Maliki Imam and he messes up the number, then you do the tasbih. Okay? You say Subhanallah, so maybe he'll add the missing takbir. Okay? That's the first rak'ah. As for the second rak'ah, it is 6 takbirs, including the one for standing up. So just remember 7, 6, right? 7, 6. Remember that. Just like some people say, what it is, 7, 6, 8, right? The number of Bismillah or something like this. So just like that, 7, 6. Okay? All right. And again, if the imam misses those takbirs, or is of a madhab that does the takbirs at a different time, or is of a madhab that does more or less takbirs, you just do the takbirs according to your madhab. Okay? After the salah, there is a khutbah, and that khutbah is recommended. It is not necessity to stay for that khutbah, it's recommended. But of course, if you're not, if you're staying for the khutbah, if you're staying in the masjid for the khutbah, don't just start talking during the khutbah. That's very common today, so that people can't even hear what the khatib is saying. And that's pretty much that is pretty much the Eid prayer. Okay, so it's 2 rak'ahs, 7, 6, and then 7 takbirat the first one, 6 takbirat the second one, 2 khutbahs. Now before that, there is the takbirs. Okay, so before the prayer, as everyone knows, when you go to the masjid, you say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And some people, they added in some riwayat, even of Imam Malik, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, walillahi alhamd. Right? There are other narrations from other madhabs, and all of them are okay to do. All of them are okay to do, even though in our madhab, we only have these 2 narrated. It's okay to make other du'as. It's okay to make the dua together and to make group dhikr. Subhanallah. There's one of my friends once shared a meme. He said, the Eid Salah, the only time when the entire ummah agrees that group dhikr is permitted, right? Or he says, wait till you tell the Wahhabis that they're doing group dhikr. Okay, so in any case, that is the Eid Salah. And there's some other specific details that we can get to at higher levels. But that's the gist of the Eid Salah. And it is recommended in the Eid to, come dressed nicely with perfume, but not in a way that causes, by the way, fitna at the masjid, because nowadays there's a lot of mixing that goes on, a lot of mixing between the genders that goes on after the prayer. Sometimes there's even a carnival or festival, and you have people coming, to Eid prayer as if they're coming to a fashion show, as if they're about to walk down the runway in New York, right? No, that's not the mustahab. And in fact, that would be closer to haram, if not haram. But when you're in a setting where, it doesn't cause fitna, then for both men and for women, it is mustahab to look nice, to dress nice, to smell nice. Okay. Brother Yasir, you have a few questions, I think.
Sheikh, should the followers must follow the takbirat, Sheikh? Like only when the Imam says, we have to repeat it back?
Yes. Yeah. Unless, as I mentioned, the madhab is different and they do a different number of takbirs, or they do them at a different time. I think the Hanafis, right, Yassi? They do it later. Something
Yes,
like that? Or is it the Shafi'is? Yassi?
Like I am from Hanafi Masjid, there we repeat after the Imam.
No, I'm saying, okay. But you don't do the takbirs at the end of the recitation?
Yeah, I think in the second rakat.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So whereas for the Malikis, you always do it in the beginning of the recitation. So if the Imam is Hanafi, you would just go ahead and do the takbirs at the beginning of the recitation. Okay. You don't have to wait for the Imam.
Yes, Sheikh. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Of course, you don't need to yell them out loud so that everyone's like, hey, what is he doing? Right?
But if the Fatiha is done, if the Fatiha is started, we have to keep quiet, Sheikh. Or the takbirats are
No,
fard.
the takbirat they're not fard, they're sunnah. Even if the Fatiha is started, even if the recitation is going on.
Yes, Sheikh.
It's a good question. Excellent. That's thinking like a faqih, mashallah. Okay, Wow, it's taking longer than expected. These emphasize sunnahs, mashallah. All right, 2 more though, and these should be even faster. The istisqa prayer, or Eid, witrun, kusuf, and Eid, and istisqa sunnah. Oh, kusuf, we missed the kusuf prayer. We missed the kusuf prayer. Though the Eid prayer is more emphasized than the kusuf prayer, okay? Witrun, kusufun. I wonder why he puts kusuf first. Witrun, Eidun, kusuf, and istisqa sunnah. Perhaps for the rhythm, but the Eid prayer is more emphasized than the kusuf prayer, than the eclipse prayer. But this eclipse prayer is a solar eclipse prayer, okay? Because I know recently in some parts of the world the lunar eclipse happened. So that's a recommended prayer. It's not a sunnah mu'akkada. It's not an emphasized sunnah. The kusuf prayer is a solar eclipse prayer. The solar eclipse prayer. If the sun is blocked by the moon, to even a good degree, right? To even a small degree, it doesn't have to be a full solar eclipse. Then what is the sunnah? Is it to go out and view the solar eclipse with some cool glasses on, or without glasses on and blind yourself? No. There's no problem in doing that. But the sunnah is to go and pray. Okay? And that comes because we'll skip that for now because we have a short amount of time. So the sunnah is to go and pray. All right? How do you pray? This prayer is very unique. It's very unique. The way you pray is there's two rukus in every rak'ah. There's 2 rukus in every rak'ah. So you get up, you say Allahu Akbar, right? And you recite Surah Al-Fatiha. And then it's recommended to recite Surah Al-Baqarah, then to go into ruku', and to go into ruku' for the length of Surah Al-Baqarah. Oh, we're not done yet, okay? Then come up from the ruku', then to recite Surah Ali Imran, okay? And then to go into the ruku' again for the length of Surah Ali Imran, then to go to the sujood, the first sujood, the length of Surah Baqarah, the second sujood, the length of Surah Ali Imran, then to come up and recite after Surah Fatiha, Surah Nisa, and then to go into ruku' the length of Surah Nisa, and to come up and then to recite Surah Ma'idah, and then to go into ruku' the length of Surah Ma'idah, and then to go into sujood the length of Surah Nisa, and the next sujood the length of Surah Ma'idah. I don't know if people realize how long that is, but that's approximately 5 and a quarter ajza. 5 and a quarter, as they say in Urdu, separa, right? 5 and a quarter separa, or about 10 ahzab for those of you hizb, right? So that's extremely long. And this is prayed in congregation at the masjid. And the imam is reciting silently. So everyone is waiting for this length of Surah Baqarah, Surah Ali Imran, Surah Nisa, and Surah Ma'idah. Now, if you can do that, and if your community can do that, then more power to you. May Allah bless you. But if you can't do that, then just recite anything you can in these 2 rak'ahs and after the first ruku', okay? And after the first ruku', you do recite Surah Al-Fatiha again, okay? You do recite Surah Al-Fatiha again, as he says in Masalik, وَالْحَمْدُ فِي كُلِّ رُكُوعٍ زَائِدَةٍ. So there's 2 Surah Al-Fatihas, 2 rukus in every rak'ah. That's the key part of it. Any questions on kusuf? Finally, we have istisqa, Salatul Istisqa. And this prayer can be prayed for anything. excuse me, that requires rain. For anything that requires rain, whether that's irrigation, whether that's your own personal thirst. But people don't realize, because today it very rarely happens that we're parched, especially in the Western world. Alhamdulillah, we have been blessed that there's hardly ever a time where we're thirsty because it's a drought, even though droughts do happen. Rather, what happens is wildfires. Rather, what happens is, the produce is affected, the agriculture is affected. So in these cases, it's okay, or it's good to pray Salatul Istisqa. Okay? And Salatul Istisqa, the time for it, من وقت حل النفل للزوال أو من وقت صلاة العيد. The time for Salatul Istisqa is after the 20 minutes after sunrise, the same time as Eid, all the way until the Dhuhr prayer. Okay, that's the time for Salatul Istisqa. And it's recommended to come to Salatul Istisqa having already done Tawbah in poor clothes. So it's the opposite of Eid in this aspect. In poor clothes, in rundown clothes, in kind of shoddy clothes. Of course, still covering your awrah and still not, doesn't like make you look disrespectful, right? You don't come in your PJs. You don't say, "Ustadh thought I said come in poor clothes. I came in my PJs." No, respectful clothes, but they are worn out, the used clothes, the most used, worn out clothes that you can find. Why? Because here you are displaying your absolute impoverishment and need to Allah. And there's a story of Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam that he led the Bani Israel. The Bani Israel have many stories on Salat al-Istisqa, because either just Allah's divine decree, or Allah would punish them with drought, or Allah would test them with drought. Okay, so he came with the Bani Israel to pray the prayer of rain. Okay, and as he was bringing the people out to pray, because it's mustahab to pray in an open area, just like Eid. As he was bringing them out to pray, he saw an ant laying upside down with his legs up. So you see, he was displaying its absolute impoverishment. And Sulaiman alayhi salam, Sayyidina Sulaiman could understand the animals, and so he heard the animal saying, Allahumma inna khalqun min khalqik laysa bina ghaniyun an suqyak. Okay, he said, or laysa lana, maybe laysa lana ghaniyun an suqyak. That he said, the ant said, we are also a creation from your creation, Ya Allah. We are also a creation from your creation. And we have no hope except your rain and your thirst quenching us. I'm sorry, your rain quenching us, our thirst. This is the ant saying this. And so Sayyidina Sulaiman said to Bani Israel, go home, because your Salat al-Istisqa has already been prayed by other than you, right? It was prayed by the ant. So this is Salat al-Istisqa. It's a time to display impoverishment. And it happened even in California when I was there. I believe the drought has now ended, right? People in California. Ikram, Yusuf, I see Yusuf there. The drought has ended.
They say it ended, but
They say it ended, but it's not ended. Okay. So the Salatul Istisqa, any case, it was prayed in California. So it can be prayed in the Western world. It's not like you have to be dying of thirst to pray this prayer. Okay. All right. In this prayer, there's nothing special. All right, there's nothing special. 2 rak'ahs, no extra takbirs. But after the prayer, there is a khutbah. After the prayer, there is a khutbah. And in this khutbah, after the khutbah, what the men do, I should have worn one of the shawls, but let's see. Maybe I can take my wife's scarf here. Okay, so this is, I'm just using my wife's scarf here. So this is a shawl, right? The rida, and actually it's quite close to the length of a rida. Actually, it is. I would say it's the length of a rida. Okay, so what you do is you take this side and you take this side. Sorry, you do it behind, and then you take it and you switch. Sorry, switch the rida. Okay, as you can see, it's been a while since we've done the Salat al-Istisqa. So how do you do it? You grasp this hand, and there we go. And you bring the shawl to the other side. I need to practice that. But you basically switch you nakkis, okay? You switch the shawl both inside out and from shoulder to shoulder, okay? And from shoulder to shoulder, okay? Does that make sense? And that represents you making tawbah for your actions, represents you making tawbah for your actions and having a new start and turning the page and true repentance to Allah, okay? Because Salatul Istisqa is a time for tawbah, a time for repentance and true istisqa, okay? So those are the 4 emphasized sunnahs, and the rest we'll cover next time, inshallah, the raghiba and the recommended nawafil. Any questions to end the night? Or to end the dars, or the morning, the afternoon, wherever you are in the world?
Sheikh, total number of rakats for khushu prayer?
Total number of rak'ahs for khushu prayer, is saying, is 2 rak'ahs. 2 rak'ahs for the khusuf prayer. But each rak'ah has 2 rukus. You recognize the difference, Yasin?
Yes, Sheikh. Yes, Sheikh.
Okay. And it has happened as well. Even in California, it happened. When I was in California, it happened once. Though there was a solar eclipse last year as well. I don't think it was very prominent in California. But it was prominent in other parts of America. It was actually a full solar eclipse. So it happens every few years, somewhere in the world.
Sheikh, if women can pray Salatul Eid at home, should they do it as a congregation one? And is khutbah needed for them?
No, there's no, you're saying, should they pray together at home?
Yes, Sheikh.
Did we cover the Salat? Okay. We didn't cover the, I'll let that question slide because we didn't cover the shurut al-imamah, the conditions of imam. In the madhab, there is no congregation of women. There's no women leading other women. That is only in the, I believe, Shafi'i madhab. So there's no congregation. They all pray by themselves. And in fact, for the Eid prayer specifically, if you're not in the masjid, there's no congregation. You all pray by yourself, even if you're a man at home. Okay. As for the khutbah, do you do a khutbah? It would seem no, because the khutbah is similar to the khutbah of Jum'ah, and that so it would have the conditions, right? Similar conditions. But you can do a halaqah, you can do, it's mustahab to share something together. It's mustahab still to do the dhikr, right? Allahu Akbar, Allah, the takbirat. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. You can do that together, right? So it doesn't have to all be by yourself. Abu Bakr, go ahead. Abu Bakr, I can't hear you if you're speaking.
Oh, sorry. Is there
No
any
worries.
recommended surah for the rain prayer?
In the Eid prayer?
Surah, yeah.
Yeah, in the Eid prayer, it's recommended
No,
to
in the
read
rain prayer, sorry. The rain.
the rain prayer. The rain prayer, I don't believe so. Just any surah. Let me see here. والرابع كشف للشرب كالعيد في الوقت على كل وراء خطفتين فيهما فاستغفرا. Yeah, there's no ويستحب أن يقرأ في الأول بعد الفاتحة سبح اسم ربك الأعلى. Okay. There is a recommendation, and that recommendation is to read for the Imam to read out loud. This prayer is done out loud, just like the Eid prayer. For the Imam to read سبح اسم ربك الأعلى in the first, and والشمس وضحاها in the second. Okay, great question, Abu Bakr.
Isn't that like the Eid prayer as well?
The Eid prayer, there's aqwal. Some people said سبح اسم ربك الأعلى and والشمس وضحاها. Other people said سبح اسم ربك الأعلى سورة الغاشية. Other people said سورة الليل and سورة الشمس.
Okay. MashaAllah.
Perhaps the same opinions are in the istisqa, but he doesn't mention them here or in the sharh. Perhaps it's qiyas on that, but whereas for the Eid prayer they specifically mentioned there's different possible recitations. But these are mustahabbat. These are mustahabbat, so it's good to follow, but not necessarily like it falls under here, right? Not this recommendation. It falls under this recommendation and more under this definition. Okay, we haven't given the definitions yet of these, but we'll give them next time, inshallah. Jazakallahu wa yakum. Last question we'll take from Sister Ikram. You mentioned if you're not in the masjid, a group should pray Eid Salah individually. What about the cases of Eid Salah at a facility, like a park or community center? There's no issue in that. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean the masjid specifically. I meant a jama'ah where people are coming together to pray the Eid prayer. And it is recommended actually to pray this outside, not to pray in the masjid. It is recommended to pray it outside. So somewhere like a park is recommended if the weather permits, right? Some places like in Houston, it gets extremely hot in the summer and almost impossible to pray outside unless you start very early. Okay, so in those cases it's fine, but it is recommended to pray outside, and so that's what I was talking about. All right, we'll stop there for today. وفيكم بارك الله. نسأل الله أن يعلمنا ما ينفعنا وينفعنا بما علمنا إنه على ما يشاء قدير بالإجابة الجدير ونعم المولى ونعم النصير. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. فتح الله لنا ولكم. غفر الله لنا ولكم ولسائر المسلمين. وبارك فينا وفي وقتنا وفيكم وفي وقتكم. استودعكم الله الذي لا تضيع ودائعه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
Walaikum assalam, Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you.
Ramadan Mubarak.